Let's just go back to that first test where you ran out in Durban and you just see literally a sea of red.
I think that's the moment it really sunk in. They sang, they screamed, they shouted, the noise levels were unbelievable.
We could see, we're in for something different today.
It was so massively intimidating.
I don't always think everybody, even the spectators understand how big it is. But for us as players,
you've got the weight of the country on your shoulders, and that's how it feels.
You have to be firing on all cylinders in all areas of the game.
For us, it was probably a much more enjoyable victory than the World Cup final.
You couldn't have written a better script, if you had to write it for a movie.
For us, it was about legacy. You got one shot, you got to take it.
In this Spirit of Rugby All Access Special Edition, RugbyPass and the famous grouse, the official whiskey of the British and Irish Lions, look back at that historic British and Irish Lions tour to South Africa with two Springbok legends, John Smit and Pierre Spies. Hello, John Smit, Pierre Spies, two Springbok legends, sat here with a Scotland legend. No answer, but no, thanks for chatting to us on the Spirit of Rugby with Famous Grouse, and we're going to be talking about the British and Irish Lions tour down to South Africa. We know that they're coming down now. We don't know what the lay of the land is, but I just wanted to ask you, Pierre, we'll start with you first. I don't know how much you've seen around the Lions announcement and the hysteria that's been in the UK and Ireland about team selection, about how the players find out. Have you seen any of that noise down in South Africa?
I've actually just seen a little bit about it, Jim. Obviously lots of excitement. Just great to see the guys celebrating their teammates because it's such a great occasion. I think the Lions obviously going to have a very, very, very strong team like they always do, and being coached by the best. So it's going to be a great competition.
And John, you obviously played at Saracens, and you'll probably know a little bit about the history and the heritage of the British and Irish Lions. Have you seen anything? Do you feel the importance of what it means to these players coming down to South Africa, which only happens every 12 years?
It's always a difficult thing because there's so many factors that influence making a World Cup squad, let alone a British and Irish Lions series squad, because it's form, it's injuries, it's, you might have been the best 4 years ago, but all of a sudden there's a bloke that's just come up and shot through the ranks. So selection's a massive issue, and it must be the most difficult team to select in the world, I think, is a British and Irish Lions squad in terms of picking the best players, the best combination, because there's so many factors that are involved in putting together such a diverse group of people.
There's a lot of games that are big for South Africa. Obviously the Tri-Nations, which is now the championship, the games against the All Blacks. How important is this series for the South African players when the Lions come to your place and it is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity?
This time around, it's I guess a team that won the World Cup 2 years ago that hasn't been able to play a test match. It probably feels it's got a hell of a lot to prove in terms of winning in Tokyo 2 years ago. So this really is an opportunity to get out there and actually prove what the squad is worth. It's a team selected from so many nations, the best of the best. And if I think back to 2009, that second test in Pretoria was probably the most intense physical test match I've ever played in my career. There is nothing that you could use as a benchmark for a team that wants to prove itself and show the world what it's worth than to play and succeed against a British and Irish Lions team. And this one that's been selected is a formidable team with some serious players. So it's going to be one hell of a series.
Pierre, what's it like preparing to play the British and Irish Lions? Like, how do you prepare for the Lions? I know what you would have done. It would have been be bigger, be leaner, be more ripped. But is the physical part to playing the British and Irish Lions, is that the number one focal point?
We came off a Super Rugby season and we started preparing for that. So immediately we came off with, obviously a lot of confidence as from the Bulls team, bringing that into the Springbok setup. And then it's all about management, management of the injuries and then maintaining the fitness and then gelling as a team. That was a big thing that we actually spent a lot of focus on. And then physically, the guys were there. But it's about getting on the same page mentally and then pitching up on the day. So, we were spot on. So there was an amazing team atmosphere. There was a great team spirit. And we had a lot of momentum going into that season. So we were looking forward to it, and it played out, the way we wanted.
Was it a natural thing to bring everyone together?
We were probably a little bit more fortunate in that time. I mean, we'd been together probably 6 years. We started off with Jake in 2004, and by 2009, we'd sort of had a squad that had become a family over a 6-year period. There is no team that I've ever played that is more desperate to succeed than the British Irish Lions. They get together, they do. It's a lot more difficult for them, I guess. They've come from bashing each other up in the Six Nations, and now all of a sudden they've got to be as one. But the desperation for a result and for success from the Lions team is at a level that I've never really expected before. We really overplayed the importance, the urgency, and what was going to come our way from this red wave that it was landing in South Africa. So it was easy for us to connect as a group because we were already a family. The difficulty and the important part for us was to understand the threat that was coming and how prepared we had to be, and that we couldn't just get a fright in the first test. We had to start fast. We had to get in there, and we had to understand the kind of intensity that was coming our way.
We're talking about the spirit of rugby here. Nothing embodies that more than the fans and the support outside, but also inside the stadium. You mentioned it around the sea of red, and let's just go back to that first test where you run out in Durban and you just see literally a sea of red.
We were looking forward to the match because we, went into the series quite confident, and obviously we're playing on home turf. So we were like, listen, all right, bring it on. We've got our fans waiting for you. But as we come out of the locker rooms, you see there's almost more Lions supporters than the Springboks. So all of a sudden you understand the size of the occasion, and then the weight behind the team. There's this mass of red supporters behind this Lions team, and it's like it's not going to be as easy as you actually thought it's going to be. It's going to be a fight until the very last. They're in full force, and they've got very loud voices. I don't know what you guys do in the UK to amplify their voices, but they were supporting the guys full on.
John, as captain running out to that, I'm sure you would have spoken many times about the fans being at home and the emotion around that. When you run out and you're leading the charge there, what are you thinking when you see this sea of red?
There was this energy, and we are terrible. Saffers can't sing at all. I mean, the best we could do is Shoshaloza. But this sea of red, they sang, they screamed, they shouted, the noise levels were unbelievable. And you got the sort of the weight of the country on your shoulders, and that's how it feels. And then all of a sudden you run out expecting your people to sort of say, don't worry, Smitty, it's going to be okay, we're here for you. And there's the sea of red who literally, if they could, would sort of, throw an orange and hit you on the head if they could. So it is one of the most unique experiences I think anyone could ever experience. And it's something that I don't think that you could replicate. And
the best way to quieten or dampen a crowd is by getting out the blocks quickly, which is what you did after 5 minutes. The dream start, a move that was pre-planned. So I hear, so I see. Sharks. Is that right?
Yeah, it was one of our players was obviously called the Sharks. All our players were named after the franchises, and this Sharks one was probably the easiest one. It was a good scrum, right shoulder, getting over the gain line with our inside centre, and then send the sort of fattest kid in the pack, which was me at the time, as the third phase. So I must be honest, it was delightful to not run into the biggest of walls, but I think that was purely because the first blow was the scrum. We were expected to take strain, and we got the advantage there early on. It was a strange feeling because you normally, especially as a front row, you sort of want to celebrate tries, but it was too early to get too excited. It was the start we wanted, but I was just so nervous to get back and get going again because I knew that it was way too much time to be able to over-celebrate from such an early stage of the test match.
Yeah, absolutely. And Pierre, another area of the game, having played against South Africa and trying to target a space, do you go next to Victor or do you go next to Bakkie Spother, or do you target Pierre Spies? Because either way, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. But the line-out dominance as well, which again would have been a huge part in the British and Irish Lions armoury, but more specifically was an area of strength for you guys, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, but you have to be firing on all cylinders in all areas of the game. So, when we had such dominance in the scrum, it gave us huge confidence But still you can win one area of the game and then suffer in another. So it was very important for us to continue to focus on our line-out aspect. And we were, like I said, we took a lot of confidence from the Super Rugby and also the Springbok team that has been playing together for so many years. As a forward pack, our lineouts was a great weapon for us. So with Victor and Bakkies and John Smith, we were a great unit. So we wanted to put pressure on the guys in our lineouts, and we knew we could.
So John, around the 64th minute, the experience or the injury that you picked up took hold and you went off. Was that a tactical substitution or was it an injury?
I did at about 60. I thought we'd done enough, and that was a mistake from our side. So having gotten subbed and sort of things started to turn. Rugby is an incredible game, and it's only really about one thing: one team trying to keep momentum, gain momentum, and have it for as long as possible. And we were starting to lose momentum. So, yeah, there needed to be a few. I might have pushed the envelope a little bit to get myself back onto the field. Maybe I panicked a little bit. I certainly probably should have just stayed on and seen it through for the first test. But it was something that needed addressing quite urgently with 15 minutes to go.
Yeah, and Pierre, for you, comfortable, a first test, so it seemed. Probably didn't feel that way, but I mean, with such a big build-up to it, and then you're in that test and you're winning quite comfortably, like how did it feel out there on the park?
Like John said, the first 50 minutes was actually quite comfortable for us in many ways. Things were going according to plan almost. And then when we made the substitutions, all of a sudden, the game changed. And then again, that just shows you the level of the competition, because the Lions is such a great unit and they've been trained well, and they're all a bunch of quality players. They know how to play a game until the last minute. And they were fighting back, because there's a lot of pride to play for. When we finished the game, obviously very glad, but we knew, listen, the second test is going to be a different story, because then all the nerves would have settled. The players have felt one another, and then Loftus is going to be a war zone.
I mean, having watched it back and spoken to some of the lads who played in that test at Loftus in Pretoria, one of the best test matches we've ever seen. The physicality. What was it like to play in?
It's got to be one of my most memorable test matches. And, people remember, we knew they had a sniff and we knew they were going to come in quite confident. And so our whole plan was to start even faster, was to accelerate the pace. We spent time on placing ball further out, cleaning rucks. We just wanted Fourie to get that ball into the fly-off's hands all the time. And so all of that went absolutely out of the window when we lost Skulk in the first minutes. It's like we couldn't really get out of this lull of playing slow to try and get back to 15 men. And, I'm pretty sure Pierre remember, I got reasonably aggressive at halftime, and we sort of had to shake a few cages and really get the message across. We had to restart that test at halftime to refocus on how we wanted to play, and then make some changes to rejig things up and try and get ourselves the results in the second test. I can't tell you how much of a memorable roller coaster that was for me as a leader of that pack.
Do you remember what you said at halftime, John? Do you remember anything that went down?
It had a lot of F's in it, and it was pretty much wake the F up. Let's get back to the plan. This is where we are, and really about focusing in on 2 or 3 things that we do well. Get in the front foot, increase the pace, keep the ball, play territory. Those are the 3 things that win test matches, and we had to really focus on the basics of what we needed to do to get that result in the series.
And Pierre, could you feel that intensity from the Lions, that desperation to win that second test, that they knew what was on the line?
Yeah. Now, from the start of that test match, we could see, we're in for something different today. And then this is actually the amazing thing about sport, because really it is about how you finish, right? So everything is about, there's 80 minutes in this game, and things can happen in 5 minutes time. A game can be won. Literally, you can score 2 or 3 times in 5 minutes. So, and that's what makes this test series so amazing. Is you have the compilation of a team that is, both teams are very experienced. So you have all this talent, but also the experience that can actually guide you to a victory like that. And that's actually what happened with us in that second team. We had a strong bench coming on, guys making a massive impact in Heinrich Brosseau, and then also in Morné Steyn, which actually kicked the winning kick at the end. So, it was an immense test with so many moments, significant moments that really swung the game in different directions. And it was like a ping pong match up until the last minute when Morné Steyn kicked that last penalty.
Pierre, at the end of the game, there was a lot of talking points. Obviously, such a close contest. Ronan O'Gara puts up the up and under, and we all know what happened. A penalty almost looked unkickable for all of us here on this side in the UK and Ireland. But what do you remember about that moment? I mean, it's an iconic moment in history now, but such a huge moment in the history of British and Irish Lions versus South Africa.
Yeah, look, I mean, you couldn't have written a better script, if you had to write it for a movie. So, again, like I say, we knew Morné, could kick well, basically in any stadium, but especially in Loftus, this is his home stadium. When he had that penalty, we knew, listen, this is it, and he's got a great chance of kicking it. Obviously, he can still miss it, but it was the finish to a great game, and then obviously just the complete anticlimax for the Lions, the climax for us. That's the only way you probably want to win the most intense game ever, is to win it in the 80th plus minute with a penalty, and then the emotion, knowing even not just the match, but then the series was won. So huge emotion, and then the celebration, the guys jumping all over one another, and then it was just an amazing moment.
I've got to jump in there, Jim, because I still remember when the penalty came, it was more a Frans Steyn type of range, and I was looking for Francie, and Morné Steyn actually stepped up and said, "Cappy, this one's mine," and he had a little smile on his face. I was like, this is probably the biggest kick in your career, and the guy's stepping up and basically intercepting me looking for Frans Steyn and saying, "I've got this covered." So I've never seen anything like it. But man, if there was ever one place I never wanted to be, it was in Morné Steyn's shoes to kick that penalty at the death. I think that's why they put the fat guys in the front, because that was some moment. Mate, it goes over. I mean, you can barely watch it, and the celebration is massive because you know that the series is done. And so for us, it was probably a much more enjoyable victory than the World Cup final, because you're so relieved to win the World Cup final. But now we'd sort of come as a group, we were able to enjoy this, and that night was incredible. It was a long Contiki, a lot of cigars, and a lot of bad behavior for that entire Saturday night. So it was probably one of the best victories that we were able to enjoy as a group, purely because of just how big it was and the way. Pierre's right. I mean, there's no better way to win a test match is in the death with a kick like that. So probably the most enjoyable victory.
So John, when we talk about the spirit of rugby, and you've been across that journey for a huge part of your life and had some monumental experiences, what does the spirit of rugby mean to you?
For me, I think I learned about the spirit of rugby in my first experience for the British and Irish Lions in 1997. I played a couple of minutes against Dai Young, and it was the start of my career, and he came over to swap jerseys, and I couldn't, because I didn't know if I'd ever have another shot at the Sharks. Only for Jason Lineout to hear the story and come and hand his jersey to me and wish me luck for my career. And I'm thinking, this is a massive battle, and we've smashed each other up, and here's this chap literally wishing me well as the opposition. And that's when I realized rugby is a different sport to many others, and that there was a physical sort of element in a combat and a warlike scenario, but it was built around camaraderie and relationships. And that for me is what epitomized the spirit of rugby.
The spirit of rugby in South Africa carries a powerful symbol of unity for the country. It brings us together, under one flag and under one purpose. And it really has played a huge role in our country. The spirit across the world, the spirit of rugby, really, the camaraderie thing and respect is for me the big thing, that comes out of rugby. The fact that you can be in such a huge battle and combat, and then, straight after every match, there is a camaraderie and a mutual respect of the game, and understanding of, what has just taken place and what is the bigger picture. So the sport is amazing, and that's why we must work hard to get more and more people involved in it.
When you look at this British and Irish Lions team, John, I know you know a few of the guys really well, but who do you think embodies the spirit of rugby? There's loads of backstories. I know that you've been on the journey of someone like Jamie George, for example, but when you look at it, who do you look at with interest, and who sticks out as the spirit of rugby?
Yeah, Jamie is going to be one of the guys that I look forward to watching the most, obviously because of the history and the friendship there. But for me, I really have to talk to Alun Jones and his story. How he's been able to manage his body because he plays a physical game of rugby and still be so good at his age. That really is what embodies the spirit of the British Irish Lions, is the tenacity, the toughness, and the sort of the gutsing it out in terms of you're looking at Alun Jones, and he's been a captain of a very successful Welsh team, and that for me is the right choice, the right captain, and a man that I think has got the respect of everyone around him, even his opposition.
Sure. No, I believe Alun Jones really epitomizes that. The fact that his record is speaking for itself. He's got such a great record, and then he's got respect, of his own teammates and also the guys he used to play against. So the perfect guy to lead the team coming into a South Africa setup. That's going to be brutal also. But he was here back in 2009, and he can lead the guys strong in that sense.
When you look at the South African team, they've not played, John, since 2019, the World Cup final. How are they going to turn up in the best possible way? I'm not even going to say to put on a performance, because they definitely will. We know what it means. You guys have spoken about it.
This series is going to be made up of very simple things. For South Africa, the biggest disadvantage is that they haven't been together. They haven't played a test match in almost 2 years. I think the advantage is that they've probably still got that confidence lag from the 2019 World Cup. They're unbeaten. They haven't played. So there's a confidence amongst their group. So it'll be about, and Pierre said it, get your team going. It's a test match. South Africans don't need a hell of a lot to get them riled up. And this is a pretty big event. So I think that the sort of not having taken the knocks is going to be a very, very, very minuscule effect on their demeanor of getting out of the blocks early as a big, brutal pack of forwards. If I was any team playing South Africa, I'd always know the one thing I'm going to get is a big pack of forwards that are pretty angry and are coming at you, and you've got to be able to handle that.
If you were to give a message to the Lions players, John Smit, what would it be?
Try not to make them angry before the first test. We were fortunate with the British press. They spoke up the British and Irish team, and they spoke us down, and they got us really worked up. And so my job was very easy that week before the first test. I didn't have to do a huge amount of motivating.
I don't know what things will be like in terms of COVID bubbles and the opportunity you might have to speak to the Springbok players. What would you say to these lads that are about to embark on a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to play the British and Irish Lions at home?
I think the message really is that this is not a normal test match. This is not a normal series. This is something that happens every 12 years. And you won't get a chance. You won't get a second chance. And that message came out loud and clear to us by the 97 squad under Tash. And when we got that message, the impetus was massive. And so my message to them would be, you got one shot, you got to take it.
Pierre, what would your message be to the lads if you get a chance to speak to Ebenezer Beth up against Mara Itoje, or any of the players with the battles that they're going to be facing? What would you say to them?
No, exactly the same. We will not give them another chance. And again, it's something really worth to play for. I mean, it's great to win the World Cup now, but they've got something else to play for in winning the Lions, so that they'll never have an opportunity to do again. And, all the guys need is a serious challenge. And this is a great challenge for them. And also for each one of them to put that on their, on their resumes, if you want to put it like that. So there's enough motivation in this series for the guys. And I'm sure they'll get up to it. If we can get the similar team chosen again, it's going to be a great series.
So, John, retirement has taken all of us. Of course it has, of rugby. But Pierre's got an interesting backstory. I won't ruin it. I'll let you maybe tell the masses what he's doing and how impressed you are with his transition into the spiritual world.
Yeah, you're right. It's a scary time, I think, this transition from being a rugby player or a sportsman, for that matter, into the real world. And there are many different ways of trying to transition. And I think Pierre's taken an unbelievable route. Spirituality is a massive thing amongst sports people. If you think about the faith that they need to rely on when it gets tough. And Pierre was always a very spiritual, very religious chap in the team.
Pierre, we're talking about you. Just a little bit about what you are doing now and what the future holds for you.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm currently a minister of faith. I'm becoming a pastor in our church in South Africa. And like I said, I actually never planned on doing it, but it really is a journey of faith. So meaning I had other plans for my life and my career. I actually was planning also going into media and getting involved in business, but as I walked and journeyed with God and prayed and these kind of things, as my career played out, I knew that this was where I was going. So when I retired, I made the decision, and I retired still, quite young. I was 31. I could still play a few more years, but I knew this was the time for me to stop. And this was God telling me, listen, this is what I want you to do. Whatever way you go into after rugby, it's a massive transition. It's a huge, huge shock to the system in the start, because you've been doing something for 13, 14 years in a certain way. And now you have to find your feet in the world as a novice again. And I believe that there's still great things to be done, and it's my heart to help people. Like I said, we're marrying people, we are helping people with funerals, and especially now with COVID, it's tough times for people. So this is my destiny, and I'm really looking forward to see where God's going to lead me.
Pierre, John Smit, absolute pleasure to speak to you and to share your virtual company in what's going to be an unbelievable tour for the British and Irish Lions lads heading down to South Africa. We hope it's going to be an amazing tour, very different, of course, during COVID, but nonetheless live sport, and I think it'll be fantastic. So from myself and everyone at Famous Grouse and RugbyPass, really appreciate it. Thanks very much.
Thanks for having us, Jim. Thanks, everyone. Good to see you, Pierre.
Thank you, Jim. Bye-bye, John. Good to see you guys. Thank you very much.
Cheers, guys.